Excuse me. Sorry. Hello. Sorry. Welcome. Do you like that? You like how that's how I start it? Every time I make a noise of any kind, like an involuntary like throat clear or a cough or sneeze or anything, just know I'm really leaning into it because my brother told me I needed to edit these episodes to take those out. And in spite of him, I'm never going to, and I'm going to actually embellish and increase the frequency at which I do things like that. So there's a nice hearty slurp for you right off top. And, many more will come. So get ready for some throat clears, sneezes, coughing straight up. What a way to begin. The episode. Just hi, welcome. This is Movies You Missed, the podcast where I, your host, Jace Cudlin, just, gab about movies that I think are underrated. Movies that I think people haven't seen and that, should be seen, basically. Movies that I don't think get their flowers like they deserve, I guess. This is episode 5 of our 8-part sequel summer series where we break down just kind of a random assortment of movie sequels. A lot of them in like big name franchises that just people haven't seen for a various number of reasons, whether it was there's too many sequels in, those sequels kind of fell off, it's kind of diminishing returns after a while, too many installments, nothing could compare to the first one type beat stuff. Because some of these franchises that go long that go like a lot of movies. Sometimes they get really bad. I can even admit, but like sometimes they get good again, or sometimes they never get bad at all. You know what I mean? Like Freddy 6, we covered last episode. Sure, 6 episodes, 6 movies into a series, you're probably like, I don't know about that, but that's a gem. The Howling 5. Some of the later Hellraisers are pretty good. Just like, sometimes you gotta, if you really love, like, an idea and a concept, sometimes you just gotta stick with it. Sure, they're not direct sequels or anything, necessarily, but, like, these new Halloween movies, at least that Halloween 2018, was pretty good. Halloween H2O, Halloween Resurrection, those are all real late in the game. Those are good. Halloween 6, Curse of Michael Myers, pretty good. Yeah, but, this season, we're covering underrated sequels. So far this season, we've covered RoboCop 2, Halloween 2, Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, which is like Nightmare on Elm Street 6, and, the exact Friday the 13th, 9, so proves my point even more. But so today we're covering the third installment in the Predator series, and that's not including Alien vs. Predator, because I consider that its own entity and its own different franchise. We're covering Predators 2010. Robert Rodriguez produced and written, directed by Nimrod Antal, as far as I could tell. How do you pronounce his name? He's Hungarian. Predators. The third Predator sequel. I debated between doing this and doing Predator 2, or The Predator, which came out in 2018. All of those movies are, I guess, like lesser works in the Predator franchise. But I like all of them. Predator, I was actually just thinking this the other day. Predator, at least in my opinion, and I know I said this about Nightmare on Elm Street too, but I think it's a really consistent franchise. Because, I guess if you take out the AVP stuff, Alien versus Predator, for those uninitiated, I mean, if you look at it, you look at Predator, Predator Two, Predators, which we'll discuss today, like I said, the Predator, and then this new Hulu project, Prey, which is a prequel to the first Predator, directed by Dan Trachtenberg, I think is his name. Um, yeah, that just came out, so I guess we're kind of doing that in honor of this. And I haven't seen that, but I mean, like, I've heard only like good things, only like rave reviews about it. So like that literally means that like literally all five of the Predator movies are good. Like they're batting 1,000. It's kind of like Scream, you know. Um, every single one of those movies that they've ever came out with is good, and I guess they're. I mean, there's a logical, rationale for that, because I think like the bigger span between projects, the more it allows you to like focus on and build those projects and build up. Sorry, I'm saying that through a yawn and it's something got really loud. Allowed you to like build up the mythos and like I don't know, work on stuff. Because I mean, like the script for this movie, Robert Rodriguez wrote it in 1994, but this movie didn't get like produced and wasn't released until 2010. So I mean, Robert Rodriguez had like 16 years to sit on this script and fine tune it, and then they reworked it when they started production and stuff. So I mean, like it had time to be a good movie. And like that's the thing. I mean, like I think, and again, this is a tangent, and I'll get back to what I was talking about, but like I understand that like modern Hollywood is just like, hey, we got to push this kind of stuff out as fast as possible. The faster we get it out there, the faster we can make money. And like Marvel and like Star Wars, and I guess anything affiliated with like Disney, is really like that nowadays. Nowadays, if you don't get a sequel to a movie in like 2 years, it might as well be dead. Um, but they're pushing this shit out at such a rate where they're definitely like sacrificing the quality of it, and it truly shows, and it definitely like I don't know, impacts the returns in a way that I guess maybe they don't even think of. Where it's like I think there's more longevity to projects like Scream, where you take your time on it and everything is like kosher. you know well, I guess I don't know if that's necessarily true for Scream. I guess I'm kind of contradicting myself here, but because like Scream 1 came out, Scream 2 came out like a year later, Scream 3 came out like 4 years later, but then like literally like 11 years between Scream 3 and Scream 4, and then I'm pretty sure 11 more years between Scream 4 and Scream 2022. So like, and those movies are both stupendous, amazing. So like, and like Prey, I mean, like this is like the first Predator project in like 12 years. Um, Predators, which we will discuss today, is like the first solo Predator project in like 20 years. Between 1990 and when Predator 2 was released, and Predators was released in 2010. I mean, that's 20 years. But yeah, because I think they like because they were busy like gallivanting with Alien and the Alien franchise and creating those like disastrous, monstrous movies. And I'm sorry, I know a lot of people love Alien vs Predator, the first one, released in 2004. I watched it the other day, man. It's not good. It's not great. It's really just somehow so incredibly boring. I don't know. And I've seen it like 3 or 4 times at this point. But that was like the first time the other day where I was really not feeling it. Like, I don't know. It's just like movies that this like I'm like, if like you're doing like weird mashups like this, and like I don't know, I don't expect it to be like a well written movie with like developed characters. So like in turn I expect like like fun, I don't know, interesting kills, um something, you know what I mean? Like, and I guess like that movie did build like the mythos and like the mythology of Predator, and like they did a decent job doing that and like setting it up, but I just don't think it was necessarily executed that well. Um, and it just set up like the Predalien, which is like an alien mixed with a predator, which is like kind of totally wasted in the next movie, and just wasted on these like kind of garbage, schlocky, but not in a good way movies. Whereas put like something like that in like Robert Rodriguez's hands, and it'd be like way better. But yeah, anyway, like I was saying, this is a very consistent franchise. I think they're like batting 1,000, like I said. Whereas like other franchises we've discussed on this podcast, and even in this season, like Halloween has some like very very low points, despite the fact that I like a lot of those movies. Like Friday the 13th too has like some truly abysmal installments. RoboCop especially. I mean, like RoboCop, I think literally has like 4 movies and a TV show. And I've never seen the TV show, but from the movies I've seen, RoboCop 1 and 2 are good. RoboCop 3 is abysmal and horrible and an atrocity. And then the remake was not great either. And it's just like, man, like you guys really, you only had 4 installments, and like 50% of your movies are bad. I don't know if we covered any franchises in the first season. I'm trying to remember what movies we even did. But yeah, I mean, like this is a good one. Like this, like you can bet your bottom dollar that you'll see Predator 2, and then also the Predator covered on this show in the future. Like it was truly a toss up. I had written it, and I was just like, it was honestly like the deciding factor was which one I hadn't seen in the longest, and it was Predators, and I was just like, yeah, let's do it. So, and like I know, just like just cover some business up front here. I know I initially said that this sequel summer series was going to be 9 episodes, but I mean I had to shorten it to 8 due to time constraints, and for that I am sorry. I don't like breaking promises here, but I'm not going to shorten it anymore, just so you know, because I'm going, I'm doing a calendar summer, you know what I mean? Like, today is August 24th, 2022, so I'm recording this. So I have, like, give or take 3 weeks left until the official first day of fall. So each week I'm going to release an episode, and you can hold me to that. And that's, you have my word, and my word is my bond on that. And of course, the episodes, honestly, I know exactly what movies I'm going to be doing, so maybe I'll just maybe at the end I'll reveal it, what I'm doing next week, or maybe I'll just, it'll be a surprise like it has been thus far. I haven't decided yet. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, and like, just so you know, I mean, like, that just means that we have more sequel summers. Like, the less movies I cover this sequel summer, the more I have in the backlogs on the back burner to cover next summer. Because, like, I mean, I'll pull out this list right here. And let me just do, like, a quick count, if you'll permit me 1 second. Yeah, I have like 28 on this paper. Sorry, it's. I know I was counting for a long time, but I have like 28 more sequels to do. I mean, and if we're doing like 8 per season, that's like what? That's like almost 4 more summers worth of films to cover. And I'm sure I'll keep adding as I watch more and more sequels, because I don't know, man. I'm like a completist when it comes to that kind of stuff. So as I watch like Hellraiser and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff, I'm sure this list will only increase as time goes on. So, we have that to look forward to, and then we're going to have like a brief month of October Halloween season where I'm going to release like 2 or 3 episodes based around a central theme, because I like doing this theme thing. Kind of makes it easier. That being said, I'm not going to pigeonhole myself and always do a theme, but I think for now I'm going to stick with that. So I'll do some sort of Halloween theme. I don't know if like I consider doing just like, oh, maybe we'll just do like Halloween 4, 5, and 6. We'll do like the Thorn trilogy, or maybe we'll do like 3, or maybe we'll do like a director deep dive and do like 3 underrated movies from like a director's filmography, like maybe like Wes Craven or like Tobe Hooper or John Carpenter or something like that. Something like that, and then we're gonna come back and do an entire winter season, which I live in Ohio, so I mean, like, there's not much to do in Ohio besides do stuff like this. So I mean, like, that's gonna be consistent. Also, our winters last like 6 months, so that's gonna be a long. And the ideas I have for that, like the themes, are they're long and like broad. Um, there's like two that I'm deciding between. They both have like probably like maybe like 16, 15, maybe like, yeah, like I would say like 15 to 20 movies. So that's gonna be a long season. Um, Hopefully you enjoy whatever theme I come up with. But yeah, so that'll be fun. I got plans. You know, I got and anyway, that concludes the business up front. Sorry that was such a long tangent on business. Um, but yeah, it's about 3 p.m. You know, I just finished up a cup of coffee. That's what you heard me slurping on just now. So you know, let's get into it. You know, today, like I said, we're covering Predators. It's a 2010 American science fiction action film directed by Nimrod Antal. I really hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly. It is the third film in the Predator franchise, and it follows a group of randomly assembled proficient killers who find themselves abducted and placed on a mysterious planet where they are hunted by extraterrestrial killers and must find a way to survive and return to Earth. So I said extraterrestrial killers, even though they're being hunted by, you know, we all know the Predator alien. I'm assuming people have seen these movies before, or it's just a staple of popular culture at this point. You know, they have got the dreadlocks and the weird mesh fishnet-like outfits, and then the mask, and they can go invisible, and they have like heat signature vision, and they shoot lasers and use and they're like just like a very proud warrior race. So they bring this group of people to Earth, or from Earth, and they place them on this planet and hunt them for sport, basically. So it's like a twist on the normal Predator concept established in Predator 1 and 2, where the Predators come here and hunt people on Earth. So this time they're bringing people to them. This movie was released on July 9th, 2010. So over 12 years ago. It grossed $127.2 million against a budget of $40 million, so a modest success. Like I said, it was directed by Nimrod Antal. God, I just like get more foreign as I pronounce it, which is borderline offensive. I'm sorry. He directed the movie Vacancy, which is a horror movie with Luke Wilson and Jessica Biel. But that's a really good horror movie. It's like really tense, pretty good. And then he directed, weirdly enough, a lot of like 3 episodes from Stranger Things season 4. And then he's directed some other movies here and there, a lot of Hungarian stuff, and he directed some TV. But I thought the Stranger Things 4 thing was weird, because I think he directed like a couple of the Stranger Things 4 Part 1 episodes. Really weird. I don't know how they decide who is going to be directing that. Like, oh, what's the hottest TV show in the world right now? Who should we get to direct it? This Hungarian guy who's directed 2 mainstream American movies. But yeah, the script was written by Alex Litvak and Michael Finch, from a story by Finch and Robert Rodriguez, which Robert Rodriguez and I have a deep history. Just kidding, I've never met Robert Rodriguez. But he did direct the first movie I ever covered on the podcast, not this podcast, but like when I like simply stuck my toe in the water of podcasting some 5 or 6 years ago. And I had it was like a version of this podcast, but it was like very different. I mean, the concept was the same. It was like underrated movies. But like the format was all different, and like I had intro music and outro music and segments and stuff, and it was and the episodes were a lot shorter. I took a lot less notes. But he directed the Faculty, which was the first movie I ever covered on Movies You Missed, which again, a year and a half ago or so, I did like a soft reboot of my podcast, and then really leaned back into it and started like launching real episodes and like in public settings on the internet. and did a lot more research and just kind of refined the whole process. But like, there's some rudimentary, basic episodes out there. Sorry, my window's open. You may be able to hear the obnoxious music being played by someone walking by my window. But yeah, so like I actually came across these episodes recently because my brother gave me back a flash drive that I let him borrow, and these were on there. And I'm like, oh man, remember when I did The Faculty? And I listened to it, and I was just like, man, this is actually really funny. So I may eventually release those on some sort of like lost tapes, lost episodes kind of segment, maybe like when we're off for a while, just in case people still want to taste or whatever. But it was very interesting. I think I recorded like 3 by myself, and then a 4th one with a guest. But unfortunately, that 4th one is lost forever, because it was on a computer that my brother broke while it was in his care. So I'm not bitter, but it's just gone forever. Whatever. But yeah, so I think there were 3 lost tapes that I may end up releasing, and those were good. Those were good movies. Movies that I may even just cover on this podcast, like recover them, like redo the episodes, but just like with like the modern formatting and like all the bells and whistles that I got now. Not that I have any bells and whistles. This is pretty streamlined process, but yeah. Anyway, Robert Rodriguez directed that movie, The Faculty, and he directed like all the Spy Kids stuff. And he's like a very talented person in the film industry, gifted writer, gifted director, does a lot of his own like camera work and editing and scoring and stuff like that, and he frequently collaborates with Quentin Tarantino. He just seems like a very interesting, cool guy, and I have a lot of respect for him. Maybe not even respect because we're not colleagues, but I have a lot of admiration for Robert Rodriguez. But yeah, he wrote this movie. Well, he didn't write it. He just came up with the story, and then these guys that the studio brought in and reworked it. And these guys, Alex Levac and Michael Finch, I couldn't really find information about. They don't even have Wikipedia pages, which, by the way, is the main source of my research. But yeah, this movie has an ensemble cast. It stars Adrien Brody, who people may know from The Pianist and like a million other things. He's been in a lot of stuff. He was in The Village. That weird movie. What's that movie? You guys would know what I'm talking about. I think it's... man, what's it called? It's like... he and his wife adopt like an alien, and then he ends up having sex with the alien or something. It's a real weird movie. I'm just going to do a tangent and do some research. So I'm going to try to just vamp while I also research at the same time. Maybe you can hear me typing. But yeah, Adrien Brody is the youngest person to ever win the Academy Award for Best Acting for The Pianist, which he won at 29 years old. That's pretty cool. Yeah, he was in King Kong, the 2005 version, with directed by Peter Jackson, which I actually love. I love that movie. I'll definitely be doing that on this podcast at some point because I don't think it gets enough credit. Oh yeah, he was in The Darjeeling Limited, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Grand Budapest Hotel, French Dispatch, like all these Wes Anderson projects. He played Pat Riley in Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty, that Adam McKay show. What is that movie that he was in? Oh man, it's crazy because like he won the Academy Award for Splice. Yeah, it's called Splice. Oh man, what a crazy movie that is. Oh man, yeah, we don't gotta get into that, but like, it was such a weird one. But yeah, Adrien Brody, very talented actor, and he's like the main star. I guess he's like this movie's Arnie. But of course, like, Alice Braga from Elysium and like I Am Legend is in this movie. TV's Topher Grace from That 70s Show and Spider-Man 3. Walton Goggins from Justified. Laurence Fishburne, who we all know from The Matrix and that Tina Turner biopic. Mahershala Ali, the new Blade, and the guy from Green Book. Danny Trejo is in this movie. It's got, stars are packed in. And I think that's like the Robert Rodriguez cred, getting people to come in. The DP on this movie, director of photography, was Gayula Pados. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Who who filmed like Maze Runner, all the Maze Runner movies, the Jumanji movies, and also Basic Instinct 2. So interesting filmography on that guy. Not that I think there's anything particularly great about the shooting in this movie. Not that of course, I'm an expert and I have the right to throw shade at cinematographers. But I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. There's not too many shots in this movie where I was like, wow, really effective. It's not really that kind of movie. It's just like it's an action movie, kind of focuses on the action and stuff. And of course, like the action and stuff is shot well. Like it's like competently done, but I don't think there's anything really noteworthy or specific to this guy's style. Distributed by 20th Century Fox, which I think Predator and Alien are both like 20th Century properties. The runtime for this movie 107 minutes, so a little longer than our usual movie, almost an hour and 50 minutes. But well worth it. Doesn't feel slow at all at any point. Moves pretty quickly. Definitely not a lot of stuff I would even cut out. How did I view this movie personally? I have the Predator triple feature pack, which features Predator 1, 2, and Predators on DVD, which I got at Half Price Books for like $4.99, so great purchase. But also this movie is streaming on Hulu currently, so this movie, in terms of like popular opinion, Rotten Tomatoes on 65%, which is pretty good. Maybe one of the higher ones we've done on this show. 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb. 6.4 out of 10, 65%, basically the same score. But 84% of Google users like this, so that's a pretty good Google rating. Even though, like we said, those are always pretty high. So yeah, why would you maybe have missed this movie? Movies you might have missed. You might have missed this one. And I think a lot, well, that's the thing. I actually like talking to people like that know I do this show. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing Predators this week, and they're like, what's that? And I'm like, oh, it's the sequel to Predator, with Arnold. And they're like, yeah, no, I know that one. I didn't know there were sequels. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's a bunch. And they're like, yeah, there's the new one, right? I'm like, yeah, and like that's probably great, not to dismiss that or anything. But I'm like, there's a lot of Predator, in between there. People like seemingly have no idea that this movie exists anymore. It seems like they definitely just forgot about it. And that, like literally today, I was just like, yeah, stay tuned, because Predators is coming out this week. I watched Predators the other day. I'm gonna record the episode today, and they're like, what? Predators with an S? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, no clue. And I'm like, well, you're about to. That's the whole point. Thank you for proving the logical foundation for my podcast. But yeah, I think maybe this movie. Well, because I think Predator, the initial one, that certainly doesn't get enough credit. I think people kind of dismiss it as like more of just an action movie and less of like a sci-fi action. Like they kind of dismiss the sci-fi of it, and like I think people, especially like action movies of the day, you've seen one, you've seen them all. Maybe they have that kind of opinion about it. But like, sorry, my father's mowing the lawn outside. But yeah, maybe people are like, yeah, it's just an action movie. Like, cause like Predator, like with Arnold and Carl Weathers and stuff, is like a classic. But like, no one like my age has seen it really. And people like don't give that movie the love it deserves at all. So like, yeah, I think Predator is just like a property that people don't really explore. Even Alien, I know so many people that haven't seen Alien or Aliens. It's like shocking. But yeah, I mean, they're very niche, kind of like sci-fi action movies. So I mean, it's not everyone's cup of tea. Not a lot of people's cup of tea, unfortunately, which stops them from seeing amazing movies. But yeah, I mean, like, so like, yeah, people I don't know if have seen Predator as much as they should have, and then like between now and then, there's been some not so good and not so like well received Predator stuff that might keep people away. Like, after Predator 2, I think people hate Predator 2. So they're like, the last one was horrible, not going to see this new one. And then the same thing with AVP, like the popular opinion on AVP and AVP Requiem is that they're hot garbage. So I don't think people, and that was like the Predator, even though I don't really count them in the Predator like franchise. I mean, they're still part of the canon, I guess. And it was like the most recent times you've seen Predator on screen was Alien versus Predator in 2004 and Requiem in 2007. And I think after seeing those two, people might have been like, yeah, no, I'm done. Not into Predator anymore. Forget it. So yeah, they might have just turned people off. And then like also this movie did not get necessarily the best reviews. I mean, it was like kind of mixed. And then like big name reviewers like Ebert and a bunch of other people kind of trashed it for having like thinly written characters and bad dialogue, which I can't even necessarily disagree with. But yeah, I think that kind of thing does turn people off. And like I like to think that it doesn't, but I mean even people like me who talk about it and actively know it's a thing can be influenced by that kind of stuff. Because like I know, especially movies in theaters these days, with the theater being so expensive and me struggling to survive financially, if I hear a movie is not very good, I'll be like, yeah, I'll wait for it on DVD. I'll wait to rent it, and I won't go see it. And sometimes even when it comes out on DVD, I won't. Like a good example of this is like what is like maybe like House of Gucci, the Ridley Scott movie about like the assassinate one of the Gucci's tried to kill one of the other Gucci's. I don't know. Adam Driver was in it. I heard that movie. I like love Ridley Scott too. Director of Alien, shout out. Giving Ridley Scott a shout out, as if Ridley Scott needs a promotion for me. But yeah, I mean, like that movie was said to be so bad, and then I just haven't got around to watching it, and I've definitely seen it at like the local library or in like Redbox, and I'm like, nah, I don't think so. So it happens, you know. Anyway, yeah, if we want to get into the nitty gritty of this movie, I have 5 pages of notes breaking down the plot, so we can just hit that real quick. Alright, so this baby starts off, sorry, a little explosive. So of course this baby starts off with the 20th Century Fox fanfare, you know, with the trumpets and the dun 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 dun. It's amazing how we all can probably do that just perfectly. But yeah, and then you see the lights, and then 20th Century Fox, and it always gets me riled up, you know what I mean? Always gets me jazzed. And I think it's might be... and like, I think I just associate it with good movies all the way from when I was a kid, and I would watch like the first X-Men movie, or hell, even X2, X-Men United, and I'd be like, man, that's it. But like, yeah, 20th Century Fox, Star Wars 2, I guess, was released by Fox. Very good. Had a lot of awesome properties. Well, Star Wars, of course, was like Lucasfilm too. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So yeah, we literally we enter this movie en media res or whatever, where it's literally like we just break into the middle of Adrien Brody falling from the sky. You know, he's waking up, and he's literally waking up, falling from the sky, and he's just fallen from the sky. How many times can I say that? But yeah, so he's freaking out. He's like, wow, where am I? Why am I falling from the sky? You know, your typical reaction when you wake up in free fall. Which hopefully is, no one has a typical... I mean, we all know how we would react, but hopefully no one has ever been like, yeah, I can commiserate with Adrien Brody. I remember that one time I got thrown out of that plane asleep and I woke up. I was pretty freaked out as well. Hopefully we can all just imagine. But he's got a parachute on, and... he's in military garb too, so like you can tell right off the bat that Adrien Brody's like some sort of soldier, which makes sense. I mean, like, you know, if we think about Predator 1, you know, it's all like Predator like wants to fight like the toughest prey, I guess, and that's gonna be like people in like the army and like the armed forces and stuff. So Adrien Brody, you know, he has a parachute, he deploys his parachute, and he lands in some mysterious forest. And I guess you're like, man, is Adrien Brody our main character? Because that is a weird choice for this movie. If the guy from The Pianist, who plays like I guess like a very bullyable Jewish person. Do you like how I almost said Jew, but then was like, can you say Jew? and then I added the ish at the end. And usually plays like a nerd scientist guy is like our main heavy hitter. And like, don't get me wrong, Adrien Brody's a terrific actor. A lot of accomplishments. He's pretty good in like everything I've ever seen him in, but it's just like he has a certain body type and a certain facial structure, and I think people know what I'm talking about when I say that. That isn't necessarily, I don't know, tough or like menacing, or like, I don't look at that like Adrien Brody and I'm like, yeah, that dude kicks ass. That dude can crack some skulls. That dude could kick my ass. Like, I don't look at Adrien Brody and think that necessarily. So I'm like wondering, I'm like, why did they cast him as the lead tough guy in this movie? And honestly, that was going to be like my biggest qualm right off the bat. But then I think he grows on you. He really does. Like, he kind of grows into the role, and by the end, you're like, yeah, I buy this. I'm totally buying it. Where at the end, or at the beginning, I was pretty skeptical. But yeah, so this guy, Adrien Brody's looking around, and he's like, whoa, what's going on? But then someone else lands pretty close to him, and guess what? It's Danny Trejo. Danny Trejo from like Machete and like a million other things. Tell me what I was about to say. Yeah, Danny Trejo from Sons of Anarchy. He was in Sons of Anarchy very briefly. He's been in a million other things since then. I can't remember what Danny Trejo was like really famous for. I mean, he's in everything. I mean, he was in Machete. Yeah, and he's in like every Robert Rodriguez movie ever made, basically. And he's awesome, you know. And of course, he has submachine guns dual wielding akimbo. He's just like, whoa, what's up, guy? And he points at Adrien Brody. And Adrien Brody has a gun pointed at him, and he's like, hey, whoa, take it easy, man. I'm just as confused as you are. And Danny Trejo, he's not relaxing. He's gonna kill you, dude. He's a fast-paced guy, He's a man of action. But luckily for Adrien Brody, I think, a third guy lands between them, who didn't deploy his parachute, and he just lands really hard with a thud, and he's dead. So then they're like, oh man, we're all just falling out of the sky. This is crazy. This guy didn't deploy his chute. He's dead now. But then they begin taking, like, again, this is like, pretty quick opening here. They begin taking mounted gunfire from like some Russian guy, some guy screaming at them in Russian, who has like a mounted, I don't know what those guns are called, where they're like they like spin like a minigun. That's it. Yeah, like a minigun. And he's like shooting at them, and then they take cover. But then Adrien Brody, because he's a military man, sneaks out, like crouches down and sneaks around, like outflanks him, and then puts his gun to the Russian guy's head, and he's like, hey, whoa, how about you relax? We're all on the same side. And Adrien Brody, obviously, is worth his salt, you know what I mean? He knows what he's doing. He's obviously the leader, because he's obviously, like, kind of taking control of the situation. Yeah, but we find out that this Russian guy's name is Nikolai, which I'm like, can we just not have Russian guys in movies be named Nikolai anymore? I feel like that's like the most generic Russian guy name in movies. Like, oh, Nikolai. Or like Alexei or something. Like, can we cut it out with Vladimir? Can we cut it out with those? Like, Russian people don't just have 3 names. You know what I mean? It seems like every time there's a Russian guy in any project, his name is Nikolai. And I'm like, ugh, can we just... But yeah, so Nikolai reveals that he was in the middle of fighting in Chechnya. And they all find out that they were in like kind of basically like active combat, more or less, when they just suddenly woke up in freefall. So these people have obviously been like kidnapped in the middle of like in the, like firefights, because Danny Trejo, I guess, is like a cartel guy, which is kind of I mean, it's not racist, because like Mexico does have a lot of cartels, but like, I don't know. I mean, it's like, oh, there's going to be a Spanish killer in this movie. He's going to be associated with the cartel. Like, why couldn't, like, one of the military guys be also just Hispanic? Hispanic people are in the military. I don't know. Well, yeah, no, I'm literally disproving my own point, because Alice Braga shows up, and she has a sniper rifle pointed at all of them. And they're like, whoa, again, how many times do we got to go through this? No one knows what's going on here. But yeah, so she is, like, well, she's a Hispanic actress, but I think she's playing like an Israeli special forces person, which I'm like kind of getting your wires crossed there. But anyway, she is like a sniper, stealth soldier, special forces, and she's like she like lowers her gun after they're like whoa or, chill out, everything's fine, and she's like, yeah, I know jungles and I don't know this jungle, I don't recognize this jungle at all, which kind of makes you think something's a little fishy here, even though we already know they're on another planet and not on Earth. They don't know that. So these four people kind of link up and they're like a group now, and they're like, well, let's just walk around until we figure out what's going on. um, and you see in the distance these people are all being watched by an Asian man in a three-piece suit who takes off his shoes and puts his bare feet in the mud, and it's like getting a feel for the lay of the land, which is like, I don't know if this is racist or not. Like, I don't know why all like Asian characters in movies like have to be like one with the earth and the land and stuff, and like all like this guy's obviously very quiet and like stoic and like reserved, and it's just like kind of seems like a stereotypical thing to put upon an Asian character. But anyway, I mean, the dude's totally. It does make the guy seem totally cool and mysterious and badass. So I must give Rob Rodriguez that. Do you think he's ever been called Rob Rodriguez? I really hope not. I didn't like the way it's coming out of my mouth. So the group, without the Asian man, because the Asian man is trailing like 100 yards behind him, comes across Walton Goggins and Mahershala Ali. And it's like, Walton Goggins is like a white dude in a prison jumper, and Mahershala Ali is like in like military tactical garb, and they're like fighting each other. Who knows why? I mean, just because like I guess they're confused, and like in this new situation they don't know who to trust, and also Walton Goggins definitely appears. His appearance is indicative of being a racist. So they're fighting, and then the fight is broken up by this group, and then they come across none other than Eric Foreman from that '70s show, Topher Grace. He's like strung up in a tree. Obviously, he fell into some sort of trap, and he's like screaming for help. And he's like, he's characterized as like very pathetic and kind of helpless in this kind of situation, and not meant to be in this situation because all of these other people are like trained killers, whereas he is like freaking out and he's panicking, and they cut him down, and he says he's like a doctor, and he's wearing like these little dorky wire frame glasses. And you know what? Topher Grace may have frosted tips now, but he delivers every single line like with this dry sarcasm as if he's Eric Foreman. Like, I don't know if this dude will ever be able to get away from that role, because I think that's just how he is. Like, everything I've ever seen him in, even like Spider-Man 3, I'm like, man, dude, that's literally like, you're literally just like playing Eric Foreman. Which, like, I guess is kind of a blessing and a curse, because I mean, you played such a beloved character. Beloved. Anyway, but it's kind of hard to get away from, like I said. So then this group, I mean, like, these people are pretty much taking this in stride, and they're grouping up, they're linking up, and now they're just moving as a unit. And there's like literally 7 of them now, and they're just kind of moving through the forest, directionless, following Adrien Brody, but it's not revealed where he's going or what he's doing. So then they come across the Asian man that I mentioned earlier, and he's like staring at something, and then they all start staring at it, and it's like this weird like alien metallic like monolith looking thing sticking out of the ground, and around the base of it are a bunch of like skulls of like various sizes from obviously like different kinds of creatures, and they're like trophies basically. And like Mahershala Ali, who is obviously like some sort of African, I think it's later explained, like mercenary from some sort of death squad in Sierra Leone. So he has like he's using like an accent, like a native African accent, and he's like, yeah, people from my land take trophies when they kill people too, and the person who has the most trophies commands the most respect. So again, like, we're obviously talking about the Predator here, even though they don't know that. And the Predator are like a kind of like an old hat, old money warrior class that like only cares about like how many people you can kill, and if you can kill the most people, you have the most power, and you're the toughest, and you're the most influence or whatever. So after seeing this stuff, Adrien Brody's character is like, well, I think the logical, strategic thing to do in this situation would be to get to high ground, so we can like survey our landscape and get the lay of the land. So let's all go to the top. Let's go to the highest ground. So then they again, like, this is really like boom boom boom. These people are just like, yep, whatever, taking this kind of all on the chin. And that's because like these people have seen some fucked up shit, of course. They're all like mercenaries and soldiers and stuff like that. So I mean, like, these people are like the most cool under pressure people in the world. So I guess that makes sense. But yes, they're traveling on the way to high ground, and on the way, Edwin, which is like Topher Grace's character. He's like a dorky doctor. His name is Edwin. I mean, like, come on. He points out like this poisonous plant to Nikolai. He's like, hey, look at this plant, poisonous, which is foreshadowing. That'll come back later. And then they're like walking over these cool porous rocks that are like surrounded by water, which is cool. It's like one of the only noteworthy shots I mentioned in my notes, because I don't know, it just looks really beautiful and picturesque because they shot in Hawaii for part of this movie. But it's at this point where they really start to figure out that things are wrong, because Alice Braga's character puts like a leaf in a puddle, and then it begins like just twirling around in a circle over and over and over again, which is like obviously like, I don't know, like the winds or gravity or something on this planet is weird. And then Adrien Brody's like, you know what makes things even weirder? The sun has been in the same spot the entire day, and we've been traveling for several hours. So the sun's not going down, which means the days are longer, which I think they're getting to the point where they're like, maybe we're not on Earth. And it's just like, we been knew, because it's in the description of the movie, but like they didn't know. And then it's at this point where like Adrien Brody and Alice Braga, which are obviously like our two mains, they're like the most defined, developed characters, I think, which I guess isn't really saying much. But they're like, if you think about it, that guy's Spetsnaz, that guy's from Sierra Leone, that guy was in prison and is obviously like some sort of murderer or criminal or something. That Asian guy is Yakuza. They just assume. Adrien Brody, you're a racist. You haven't even talked to that guy. And then like Danny Trejo is in Cartel. Again, these are assumptions they're making based on race, which I'm like, okay. Which I guess just happen to be all right. I don't know how Adrien Brody would know this stuff now, but he's like, we're all killers. We're all dangerous people. And he's like, I think whoever put us here for a reason. And it's like, oh man, you're really close to figuring it out, kind of. But yeah, and then like they keep walking, and they encounter like these metal fallen cages with like shedded skins on the inside, and like all these like weird goop and like bugs, which they assume is like, oh man, and like the cages have parachutes attached to them, so I guess they assume that like other things were dropped on this planet with them, other species. And then they keep walking. They're just journeying, venturing at this point. And then at one point, someone steps over a tripwire, which sets off all these traps where these spikes come out of the ground, and spikes are shot from like unknown location via like a la Indiana Jones, and then like these like pendulums with heavy ass like tree trunks attached come, and they smack together, obviously intending to smash someone open. So I mean, these people are setting off traps left and right. Isabel ends up in a and I said her name, which is Alice Braga's character. Her name is Isabel, but there's like a big name reveal at the end, so I tried to save it, but it doesn't fucking matter. Isabel, which is Alice Braga's character, she ends up in a pit over like dangling over a pit of spikes, but she's saved by Adrien Brody's character. and they manage to survive all the traps that they set off. And then they stumble upon this corpse of a soldier, obviously an American soldier, with this giant hole ripped out of his chest. And they come to the conclusion that he most likely set the traps. And then Edwin disclosed that, oh, this guy's been dead about 2 weeks. So, like, from this information, they deduced that, like, oh man, this guy was sent here 2 weeks ago, just like us, and was fending for his life, just like we are now. And then Nikolai reaches in his pocket. He's like, oh, this guy's supposed to be in Afghanistan right now. Obviously, this guy was plucked several weeks ago, just like these people were now, to like fight and try to survive. And he used these traps, but they didn't work because someone got past and killed him. And then they end up setting him off. So they're like, oh man, this is like a cycle. Every couple weeks, people get abducted from like where we were, and they get sent here to like try to survive. So it's like a game almost. And it's at this point that Mahershala Ali, like, he stares down something in a tree, and then like someone's like, what are you looking at? He's like, oh, nothing. And then we like look up, we see the view from the tree looking down at Mahershala Ali, and it's like predator vision, because Mahershala Ali is being seen in like infrared, so it's like obvious that Mahershala Ali can like sense the predator is up in the tree, but he's like, I don't know what that is because I can't see, because the predator again is invisible. The predator has powers of invisibility, which again, like, I don't know why they gotta like, this is kind of like basically in Predator, the first one, where that Native American guy can like sense and track the predator because like Native Americans know the lay of the land and they have like special attachment to the land and stuff. So again, they're like, for some odd reason, which I mean, like with 2022 eyes, I can look at as being kind of like almost kind of racist, that they're like mysticizing this guy just because he's like from Africa. And I'm like, yeah, just because you're from Africa doesn't mean you have like extra senses that like white people don't have. I'm like, I don't know if that stems from like, oh, it's a culture like that is sure much more spiritual than ours, but it's just like also maybe one you just don't understand. So for some reason, because this guy's from Africa, even though he's a soldier just like all of these people, he can like sense the predator somehow. It's just like, yeah, I don't really get that, why they gotta put that kind of stuff in movies. Like back then in like 1987 or whatever, when Predator came out, I'm like, yeah, this is 1987, it's whatever. They just don't really understand Native American culture. But it's just like to like lump this kind of mysticism on this like African American guy is weird. But yeah, so like after all of this venturing and walking, these people get to the edge of a cliff, which is like, you know, high ground or whatever. And this is a cool shot too. They like see on the horizon like multiple moons and planets like in the vicinity. So like there's like planets and stuff like right next to this planet. So from that, like, they can deduce, oh man, we're not in Kansas anymore. We're on another fucking planet. This is not Earth. Earth does not have stuff orbiting that close to it. And they're all like, whoa, man, so this is way worse than we even thought it was. We're literally not on our home planet anymore. But then again, because this movie is boom, boom, bam, you know, it doesn't stop for a quick second, they're attacked immediately after this by, like, multiple horned, boar-like creatures, but are able to fend them off, because again, I forgot to mention, I guess, all of these people were dropped onto this planet, like, from combat zones, so they all have these giant-ass guns. So they're all armed to the teeth, because it makes, I guess, the sport more fun for predators. But yeah, so they pick apart these boar creatures pretty easily. They literally, like, shoot them to shit with these, like, giant assault rifles, and submachine guns and stuff, which, again, I don't mean to sound like a total wimp or anything, but, like, these are, like, animals, and they're kind of mindless, and they're very reminiscent of, like I said, like, boars or, like, attack dogs that we know, like, on Earth, and they're just kind of, like, doing someone else's bidding, and to, like, see them get, like, massacred like that, even though they're, like, the enemy in this movie right now, it does make me feel sad in, like, some type of way, because I'm like, man, animal deaths of any kind really bum me out. I'm like, I know it's gonna kill you, and you kind of have to kill it first, but I'm just like, man, it's a little animal. Just give it a pat. Just pet it. Um, but yeah, during the scene, Isabel saves Edwin, while Mahershala Ali saves Walton Goggins, who was literally trying to murder him earlier. Um, so yeah, after they survive, they regroup, and they try to figure out what's going on. Adrien Brody, of course, because he's like the leading man, is like, listen, I think this is some sort of like, he figures out the premise of the movie. He's like, listen, those creatures were like sicked on us by somebody. Like those were mindless creatures that someone like sent to flush us out and to like expose us and see us in action. So they were meant to flush us out and like get a like so like their masters can get a read on us. And he's like, I think this place is like a game preserve and we're the game. It's a pretty good quote. And it's at this point that I'm like honestly like low key buying Adrien Brody as like a tough military guy just because he's so gruff somehow and he's really kind of transformed in my eyes. And I think the character easily his character is easily the most like written and developed. And like I'm like, oh, I'm actually buying this, and I think that just speaks to like his talent as an actor. And you think everyone's in this group, and they're like, oh man, but then like you're like, oh man, where's Danny Trejo? And then you see Danny Trejo, he's like crying for help, and he's like in the middle of this like clearing, and his back is to everyone else, and you're like, oh man, are we gonna help save this dude? Are we gonna help him? But then Adrien Brody's like, Adrien Brody, by the way, is cold and calculating and only looking out for number one in this movie, which is again kind of why I buy him as a soldier, because he's just so cutthroat. He's like, no, no, no. He's a goner. Leave him. They're just using him to draw us out. I mean, look where his body was placed in this clearing. It's obvious that this is a trap. So then he convinces everyone to go. And Isabel, Alice Braga's character, shoots Danny Trejo in like a mercy killing. But then we, the audience, see the other side of Trejo, and his face and body is like totally mauled. So like that dude was dead, and he was being used to entrap the other members. And it turns out that his voice was simply being mimicked by the Predator. Because like I don't know if you remember from the first one, but the Predator is able to like using technology like mimic like the voices of like humans and like use that to like feign communication and like draw people out into the open. So like you see like the Predator is obviously like help, help in like Danny Trejo's voice, but Trejo's mouth is not moving because like I said, he's just dead. But yeah, so Adrien Brody and the rest of the gang, they track the boar because some of them like seeing that they were obviously getting massacred like ran away in terror because again they're like mindless animals. So and they were called back by their masters once the masters were like, oh, these people are destroying our dogs, or attack dogs or whatever. So they track the boar back to like the predator nest where like skinned like human and alien bodies are like strung up everywhere as trophies, and there's a bunch of skulls everywhere. And they also encounter a chained up predator. Interestingly enough, there's a predator just hung up, imprisoned in this camp, which is pretty neat. And it's like while they're in, again, like boom, 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 while they're in this predator camp, they get like 2 seconds to meander around before they're attacked by the predator, who is invisible. And you find out that he's there because Mahershala Ali gets like a spidey sense. Again, like why? But he gets like a spidey sense, and then 2 seconds later he's stabbed through the chest and lifted above the predator's head. But again, the predator's still invisible. So everyone starts freaking out, running away, shooting, firing, going different directions. And everyone scatters. And runs away and flees in separate. And it's revealed the predators uncloak, and there's actually 3 predators, all like with distinguishing features. Like a couple have like tusks. One has like a jawbone attached to his helmet, and one has like another weird futuristic looking helmet. And there's like a berserker, a tracker, and like a hunter predator. So there's like 3, and this is like the first time they like really distinguish between the predators as much, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed this kind of adding to the mythology. But the group eventually they link back up, and Alice Braga and a bunch of everyone else, Braga, everyone is like really mad at Adrien Brody because he's like, hey man, you let us into that death trap. Why would you do that? And he's like, well, I just wanted to get the lowdown on what was hunting us, and to assess our enemy's strengths. And he's like, yeah, I mean, like, sure, they have cloaking device, they have thermotechnology, and they're much bigger than us, but that also means that they're slower and heavier. And also they use like energy pulse related weapons, but they also use crude weaponry too. So Adrien Brody is like, everyone's pissed at him, but he's like, yeah, I got what I wanted. But then also Adrien Brody is like, hey, Isabel, you didn't seem shocked when you saw that predator strung up like that, imprisoned. Like, you didn't bat an eye at that creature. You seem to recognize it. What gives? So then Isabel like confesses to everyone that she has like prior knowledge about the predator because she knows about the previous incident that happened in Guatemala in '87 with Arnold and Carl Weathers and stuff. So she knows about the events of Predator 1. So she's like, yeah, there were talks of these creatures with like thermotechnology, and they were able to cloak themselves and their heat signatures and stuff. But that there was one survivor, and that he was able to hide himself from the predator's cloaking device by spraying himself with mud. Which, by the way, I'm not sure that's scientifically accurate, but whatever. But yeah, so she reveals that she has knowledge about the predator and that the predator has been on Earth like before. So then, in response to this, Adrien Brody reveals that he has a plan to lure the predators to them by like faking that they're just going to set up camp and hole up, but really they're going to be on the offensive. They're going to, handle an ambush. So like while they're preparing for this ambush, we get a little bit of backstory on the characters. Like Nikolai shows a picture of his children to Edwin because he and Edwin are kind of close for some reason. And then Walton Goggins, definitely like the most poorly written 2010-esque character, where I gotta say the dialogue in this movie is not necessarily the best. It definitely could have been done a lot better. Like Walton Goggins is like talking about how when he gets home he's gonna rape so many bitches, and it's gonna be bitch raping time. And these are actual things that Walton Goggins says in the movie. And sure, he is like a convicted killer, and I guess the writers really want you to know that, but like I don't know, like I might be taking it a little too far. Like you don't need to be like crude and gross, and you can establish that without like saying really weird, unbelievably offensive dialogue that first of all like really no one would ever even say. But there is this really cute moment where Adrien Brody goes over to Isabel and he's like, hey, are you still pissed at me? And she's like, fuck you. And he laughs. It's kind of cute. But then Alice Braga is like, hey, why are you such an asshole? Like, why are you so cold-blooded? And then Adrien Brody like spews out this lame Ernest Hemingway quote about once you've hunted man, it changes you and there's nothing better than hunting man. So it's like, I'm like, why does he, like, it makes me question like why Adrien Brody even knows this quote, and like, sorry, I didn't mean to get too loud there, why Adrien Brody even knows this quote. And I'm like, Adrien Brody is a soldier who's read Hemingway? Somehow I don't buy it. I think he probably just learned that quote to say in these exact instances when people ask him why he's such an asshole. So yeah, then like, I don't know, like the group is like ambushed by something and you think it's the predator, and it's like seen chasing Edwin, but it's like one of the other, it turns out once they kill it that it was actually one of the creatures like dropped in with them, and it's like it's like an alien, but it's like way different looking. And it turns out that this creature actually, I think it's called like the river ghost or something is what they like term it as in like the trivia that I read. But it turns out that this creature is actually based on the original Predator design from the 1987 movie, when Jean-Claude Van Damme was actually supposed to play Predator. He was gonna look like this. Like it's a lot more almost like amphibian looking, and doesn't look like the Predator at all. But it's just like a separate movie. So So in their attempts to like draw out the predator, what they kill is like something else. Um, but they're then cornered by someone or something that's invisible that has like a gun to their head, and it like uncloaks, and you see a predator mask, predator helmet. But then this being takes off the helmet, and it's revealed to be Laurence Fishburne. Um, Obviously, like another survivor from a previous like campaign here, and he's like, it's like right away. I was about to say right off the bat again, but I feel like I say that too much. Right away, you get weird vibes from Laurence Fishburne, like, oh, this dude's been here so long that he's crazy, because he's like talking in a weird whisper, and just his mannerisms and the things he's saying is like, I'm like, oh man, this guy has like some weird shell shock or PTSD or something. This guy's messed up. He's talking like this weird whisper, and he's like in this like makeshift predator garb. Like, this dude's nuts. But then he's like, hey, I just saved your life by shooting that creature, so you should come with me to my hideout, and I can give you guys like food and shelter and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know if I would trust this guy really, but again, maybe these people know that too, but they don't really have any other option, so they go with him. And his hideout is in some sort of I don't know why I suddenly had a lisp, but he's in some sort of weird old drill that was left behind, and he's been holed up in it. So Laurence Fishburne reveals that his name is Ronald Nolan, and he was like a part of a United States Air Cavalry unit who was dropped here 10 cycles ago is what he calls it, which I think is like the equivalent of like 2 years, and that he's been surviving this whole time by scavenging. But again, this dude is literally talking to people who aren't there, laughing too much. This dude is obviously going to be a problem. And he reveals that he's killed like 2 to 3 predators. And he's like reveals a lot about the predators because like he's in the know now that he's been around them for so long. He says that the predators adapt and evolve and come back stronger every time one of their own is killed. And he reveals that there are bigger and smaller predators, and that there's like actually like a turf war going on, while also like both groups try to hunt like the people that they bring there. There's this cool part where the Yakuza guy finally speaks. Yeah, the Yakuza guy, by the way, is still with them. And he speaks, and he finds this old Japanese sword. And he's like, man, look at this sword. It's really old. They've been doing this for a really long time. And everyone's like, oh, you speak English? Why haven't you been talking this whole time? But yeah, I think, and this at this point comes like the one of the coolest lines in the movie, I think, where either Adrien Brody or Laurence Fishburne, I don't know which one says it, but they're like, yeah, we are predators, just like they are. So, and then like I guess like that's what Robert Rodriguez intended the title to be, like a double entendre, where it's called Predators because the human beings are also like their own version of predator, like they're like they're trained killers just like the aliens are. So they're like, it's like predator against predator, like they plucked predators from Earth to like test their salt basically. But yeah, I lit up when I heard that line. I said, woo, everyone's a predator, baby. That's why this movie's called that. But yeah, Laurence Fishburne exits, says he's going to go to sleep. Mysterious, because everyone just got there. But yeah, and Adrien Brody's like, outlines his plan to Isabel that he wants to recruit the imprisoned predator that they encountered in the hideout to try to hijack the ship and leave the planet. Which is kind of far-fetched plan, but it is what they end up trying to do. But after some small talk and stuff, and we see the characters like settle in. It's at this point that smoke begins to fill the room, and all the characters begin to like choke and suffocate because Nolan is attempting to suffocate and kill them so that he can scavenge their shit. So like he locks them in their room, and he like starts a fire outside the room and starts like filling the room with smoke. But Adrien Brody, quick thinker that he is, and obviously well armed, like this guy didn't even bother to take their weapons or anything. He shoots the door, and the door explodes. I mean, the door stays locked and it holds. And literally, like, Nolan is like, Laurence Fishburne is like, well, that's not going to do you any good. And literally, like, Adrien Brody, because he's quick as a whip, he's like, yeah, I wasn't trying to get out. I was trying to draw attention to us, meaning he was trying to like attract the predator. Because this Adrien Brody dude, he's thinking 12 steps ahead. You're not getting one over on Adrien Brody in this movie. But yeah, the predators show up and they immediately encounter Nolan and blow him up. They literally shoot him in the laser and his body explodes. One of my favorite kills in the movie, actually. But yeah, so Laurence Fishburne was in this movie for like less than 15 minutes, but received like one of the top billings. So it's at this point that the gang, as I'm calling them, I guess, try to they like scatter and try to escape, and Edwin is separated from the group and abandoned by the others. And he's alone, stranded, and you think he's like, oh, this dude's definitely about to die. And there's this cool like scene where he's like lighting flares and like throwing them, because like everything is dark and deserted, and he's like throwing them down this hallway to try to get light. And he like picks a flare up and he throws it down the hallway, but it's stopped like halfway down the hallway because it hits the invisible predator in the chest, and you're like, oh man, this dude is so boned. But then, lo and behold, he's saved by his best friend Nikolai. And then Nikolai like picks him up and he's like, go run. And then literally Nikolai is shot by the predator. And then Edwin straight up abandons him. And he's like, see you. And Nikolai's like, literally, dude, I just came back for you and you're literally about to leave me. That's cold-blooded. And yeah, at this point, I think we actually kind of start to question, like, oh, Edwin is kind of a piece of shit, huh? There's something more than meets the eye about this guy. But yeah, so like this, like, so now it's Nikolai in the hands of death, and the predator with the tusks jutting out of his mask like picks him up and he's about to kill him. But then Nikolai reveals that he like pulled the pins on a bunch of grenades that are like strapped across his chest, and he creates this huge explosion that kills him as well as the predator. So that's one predator down, 2 to go. But Nikolai is dead. R.I.P. But yeah, so then all the group manages to get outside and, you know, get back together, and they're like, all right, let's go. But then they're attacked by Jawbone Predator, who shoots Walton Goggins in the back. But Walton Goggins actually survives because he stole a chest armor plate from inside the like Nolan's shelter, and he manages to like jump on the Jawbone Predator's back and stab it a bunch of times, allowing the others to get away. So even though he's a convicted rapist and murderer, he gets some redemption in the end. But yeah, so like he distracts that Jawbone Predator, credited I think in like the show notes and like director commentaries and stuff as the Berserker Predator. So I'll just refer to him as Berserker from now on. The Berserker like rips Walton Goggins off his back, throws him on the ground, and then like plunges his hand into his back and rips out his spine and head, like all connected, like his spine and skull, like taking a trophy like the Predators are known to do. But yeah, so then like the rest of the people are running away, and the group is then tracked by the tracker predator with the neat metallic lined mask, because he's got like drones and stuff. He's like a tracker. He's like on their case, even though Jawbone was distracted. So then the Yakuza guy stays behind to fight him, and he's like, hey, everyone go on. Like a lot of like there's too many characters at this point, I guess, in the movie, so they gotta start killing them off, and they want to start killing off predators too, because they want to have a big finale with the Berserker, because he's obviously like the most pronounced toughest predator, the way he just ripped out that guy's fucking spine. So then the Yakuza guy stays behind to fight tracker predator with the sword long enough for his crony to escape. And the Yakuza guy takes out this sword, and you know, call back to feudal Japan, I guess, because this guy is Japanese or whatever. And you know, if you're Japanese and in the Yakuza, you must be really good with a sword, even though you're like a modern criminal. I don't know. Did the Yakuza use swords in modern day? Is that like their calling card? I don't know. So the ninja tracker predator guy has like like blades that jut out of his like wrists guard or whatever. So then he and the Yakuza guy are fighting, and the guy, the Yakuza guy knows like kendo or whatever. So it's like they're fighting pretty evenly, like slicing each other up, and it's actually a pretty good scene, pretty well choreographed. This was my best sequence until I saw some sequences later that like usurped it, I guess. But this was a good one. I really enjoyed watching this, like old school samurai battle between a predator, and like this Yakuza guy. And I guess maybe deep down that's why people enjoy Prey, because it's like this girl using primitive technology, but like a primitive predator. And like even though these people like Predator has technology and traditionally they have technology, to see it kind of brought down to basics is like very interesting. But yeah, so like they get ready for one last blow and they like run at each other and like both do like a killing blow, like a killing sweep with their blade, and then they both like run past each other and like stand for still for a couple seconds and then both fall over dead. So that's a pretty cool scene. R.I.P. the Yakuza guy, but then like that's one more predator down, so now it's one predator to go, and there's still like three people in the group now. But like, and of course they really built that guy up. Like no other person in this group could have defeated a predator single-handedly except for Adrien Brody, because he's been so built up. But they like built this dude up as a total badass. He didn't speak at all. He was doing that weird stuff with his feet earlier where he was feeling the soil. He's wearing a three-piece suit, has a nicely trimmed goatee. It's really interesting. The sword, doesn't talk a lot, very stoic. They built this guy up. They said, this guy, he's going to unleash some shit later. He's a total badass. But yeah, so they're walking and they're not walking leisurely. They're running through the jungle trying to get away. And Edwin gets caught in like a proto bear trap, basically. And like his leg is all messed up. And Adrien Brody is like, yeah, we gotta leave this dude. He's dead weight. And he was always dead weight. He's literally a doctor, total wimp, doesn't do anything. So we should leave this guy. And Alice Braga's like, no, we have to stay with him. He's one of us. We can't just leave him to die. And then Adrien Brody's like, all right, deuces, I'm out. And then Adrien Brody abandons Alice Braga and Topher Grace. But it's really interesting here because you'll notice that Edwin, when begging for his life, when begging Adrien Brody and Isabel like not to leave him, he's like, here, look, I have kids, please. And he holds up the picture of Nikolai's kids that Nikolai was showing him earlier. And like, you know that, but you know that like you don't. But like Adrien Brody and Alice Braga don't know that he's lying about having kids. So obviously this dude, definitely more than meets the eye. This dude is like some sort of weird master manipulator, doing some weird, crazy stuff to try to survive. There's something real fucked up about this dude. Pardon my French. So Adrien Brody, like we said, he leaves, and he circles back to the Predator camp, and he frees that original Predator, who at first is like about to kill him, but then he's like, hey, enemy and my enemy is my friend, let's work together. And he throws on like an old school Predator mask, and he's like the old Predator design. And like he's like, okay, let's go to the ship, and they start going to the ship. But meanwhile, Jawbone Predator has trapped the other two in a net, and he has dragged them back there to the camp, and he encounters Adrien Brody and the other Predator, and these two Predators are like, all right, let's settle this, and they start duking it out. And Adrien Brody literally doesn't stop for anybody, abandons this Predator, and is like, screw it, I'll just see if I can operate the ship on my own, even though you can't. It's an alien ship, not sure what your plan is. But yeah, so like Jawbone Predator and like original Predator are like duking it out for a while. It's a pretty cool fight scene. They're punching each other, grappling, throwing each other around because neither of them have any like real weapons. They're going invisible. It's pretty neat. But then Jawbone, who Berserker, hits the other Predator with like 3 crucial headbutts and like knocks him on his ass. And like this dude is done. Obviously, like the Berserker is the king. He probably captured you in the first place. And I think it's also, you're led to believe that the captured Predator is like of the other tribe, like, because remember there's 2 like warring factions of Predator, and like obviously like the Berserker is like the other one, So like these two are like at, in opposition to each other. Hence why this dude was tied up by his own kind. But yeah, so this jawbone predator takes off his mask, and it's revealed that he has like these like weird super pinchers. It's like his face and like genetic structure is obviously like way different than this other predator because they look a lot different. But yeah, he takes his wrist blades, and he chops off OG Predator's head, so that dude's dead. One Predator left to go, and the Berserker is seemingly unstoppable. But then he sees the ship taking off, and you think Adrien Brody is in it, because that's where he said he was going. And you see the Predator with his little wrist comm blow up the ship remotely. So like boom, Adrien Brody's dead. Ship's gone. There's no way off this planet for Alice, Braga, anybody. So meanwhile, Alice, Braga, and Topher Grace have been thrown into this pit. And Edwin and Isabel they're like, man, I really hope Adrien Brody made it out of here. I can't believe we're stranded here. And then like Edwin is like, oh, thank you so much for saving with me and staying with me. I hope you think it was, I hope you don't regret it. I'm sorry that I kind of cost you your life. And she's like, no, it's okay. We'll just be together here. And then out of the blue, for no reason, basically, Edwin stabs her with a scalpel. That obviously had some of it had some of that poison from that plant from earlier, because like she starts like hallucinating and going insane. She's like becomes paralyzed. At which point Edwin, TV's Topher Grace, America's sweetheart Eric Foreman, reveals that he's like a serial killer secretly, and that's why he was brought to this planet. Like the whole time you're like, why is this whelpy wimpy doctor with all these highly trained killers? And as it turns out, Topher Grace is secretly like a serial murderer, using his doctor knowledge to like slice up people and get away with it. And he's like murdered probably hundreds of people. And like right as he's about to kill Isabel, Adrien Brody pops back up. He's like, hey, guess what? I wasn't on the ship. I'm alive. And Topher Grace is like, whoa, I wasn't going to kill her. They gave her a weird drug and now she's acting weird. Can you help us out of this cage? And you're like, oh man, Adrien Brody, you're not going to buy that, right? But it seems like he does, because he helps him out. And they're like walking and shuffling forward and trying to find a way out or whatever. And just as like Edwin is about to sneak up behind Adrien Brody is like whoop, psych, and he blocks Edwin's knife, and he like redirects Edwin's arm, so Edwin stabs himself like right through the bottom of his chin. It's a pretty cool move. Adrien Brody, unstoppable in this movie. Like you can't get nothing by him. His character is so badass. It's incredible. And like again, I didn't think it was going to be possible at the beginning either. Trust me. So he like stabs Edwin, and Edwin's like bleeding profusely, and he's like, here, I got a plan for you. And he sets a trap with Edwin as bait for the Predator. And like Adrien Brody like sets Edwin up in a clearing, and then when the Predator comes over to Edwin, he's like, hey, what's this human doing here? Let me kill him. And he flips Edwin over, and Edwin has all these grenades attached to him, bro, and he blows the shit out of this Predator. Even though this Predator does survive somehow, I'm not sure, because the other one earlier was blown up by grenades, but whatever, I'm not poking holes. So then this Predator is like blown up and he's disoriented, and then we see Adrien Brody come out of the woodwork. And Adrien Brody, by the way, shirtless, covered in mud, because of what he heard from Isabel earlier about how Arnie survived. So he's covered in mud to cover his heat signature. And by the way, Adrien Brody is ripped, dude. He's totally yoked up. He's got like an 8-pack. I mean, he's like toned and like thin and lean, but he's like defined, dude. I think I read that Adrien Brody put on like 25 pounds of muscle for this movie. He looks good. Yeah, I literally put like lean, mean Adrien Brody appears, toned up, and covered in mud. And like he set up this intricate trap for the Predator, where he put this explosive powder all over the ground and he like lights it. So like the Predator is covered by is surrounded by fire on all sides and is disoriented from being blown up with grenades. So Adrien Brody is just like zigging and zagging out of the pass and the fire, and he's like punching and slamming and slicing the Predator, and he's really got him on the ropes. Like this is a really good plan, honestly. And spoiler alert, this is like my best sequence of the whole movie. And like, and he's like beating this predator up, and the predator looks like he's kind of, going down. But then the predator, unable to see him through his infrared, stops looking for the infrared and just listens for Adrien Brody's heartbeat. So he's able to track Adrien Brody through the heartbeat. Word to Daredevil in the Hand in season 2 of Daredevil, and he like yokes up Adrien Brody and like slams him on the ground, and he's about to kill him when Isabel, suddenly like regaining some lucidity, shoots the predator right as he's about to kill Adrien Brody, wounding him. But then Adrien Brody gets up again. This dude is no joke. He then begins wailing on the predator with like this makeshift axe thing that he found at the predator camp, and he's just like chopping and slamming this predator right in his head and his torso, and he chops off his arm. And honestly, like again, I said earlier, like the predator is kind of animal-like, and to see this like predator getting like absolutely brutalized by Adrien Brody, almost unnecessarily, it's like really really violent. Kind of makes me sad, even though again I know the predator literally ripped out Walton Goggins' spine and skull earlier. I still have some sympathy for the predator just because he's like doing base instinct and he's kind of animal-like, and also I have no sympathy for human beings because I despise the human race. But yeah, at one point the predator is like really messed up and he's just sitting there on his knees in front of Adrien Brody, no arm, face bashed in and cut up, and he's like choking on his own blood and breathing heavy, and he's like shaking and is all green from the blood. And I'm like, man, this dude is really down bad and pathetic. I feel bad for this boy. But then Adrien Brody just takes like the axe, cuts off the dude's head. Adrien Brody beats the predator dude. He Arnie's him. And I'm like, man, Adrien Brody forever cemented as a badass in my life. This dude needs to do more action movie roles. But yeah, so Edwin's dead. Isabel's alive, albeit injured. And Adrien Brody comes over to her and sits down next to her, and he's like, "Hey, this is what I was talking about earlier. Like, he's like, "Hey, my name's Royce, by the way," and she's like, "My name is Isabel," and I'm like, "Listen, dude, you could have just told us your name the whole time. I'm really tired of like dramatic name reveals in movies. Like, no one cares what your name is now. Like, you could have just been like from the beginning, just be like, I'm Royce, I'm Isabel. Like, there had to be some air of mystery of what their names were, and then at the end they're like, here's what you've finally been wondering the whole time, here's my name. Like we could possibly give a shit what your names are at this point. So then there's a jump, and the next scene is them like clutching each other, which is weird because I'm like, are you guys like in love? Is this like a romance thing? You guys are literally like clutching each other and hugging each other, and I guess she's dying and it's like they've been through a trauma, but still weird. But yeah, they're clutching each other, and they see other soldiers in crates being parachuted down to the planet. And it's like, oh man, here we go again. And then Adrien Brody's like, yeah, we need to find a way off this planet. And then he takes Alice Braga like over his shoulder, and they're walking, and they just turn around and walk away. And then the movie's over. So again, I think that last sequence, like where Adrien Brody sets a trap for the berserker, and then like they fight, and like they defeat the predator. That's definitely like the best scene in the whole movie, which I think it definitely speaks to a movie. If the last act is like the best part, because like things should really ramp up, especially action movies, slash movies, horror movies. Things should really ramp up at the end and just be awesome and just be the pinnacle of the movie. Like Freddy's Dead was like that too. Halloween 2 was like that. RoboCop 2 was like that. Jason Goes to Hell, not really so much. But just like, yeah, like the best sequence should be like the pinnacle of the movie. And this one does not break from that. But again, like, we'll get into best sequence and stuff like I like to do. The final fight was awesome. The samurai duel was really cool. With the kendo guy and the tracker predator, that was awesome. And then like the seizing of Nolan's I don't want to say seizing, but like when the predators like invade Nolan's ship, and like that whole sequence where like 3 different people die like right off the bat, is like pretty cool, pretty good sequence there. So a lot of great action in this movie, and it's like fun to watch, definitely. Sorry. The best performance I would say is probably Adrien Brody, because I think he um, really sold it. And it kind of went against type for him to be like a macho, military, cold-blooded kind of guy, because he looks like such an innocent little, like maybe even awkward, like adult, because of like I don't know, just the way he looks and the roles he's played in the past. But like I don't know, he's great. He really sells me that he's like a leading action hero military guy, and I think that's really kind of a special thing to see someone transform like that. And then like Louis Ozawa Shangshin, who plays like the Yakuza guy, is also like really good. Even though of course like he doesn't say, he only has like three speaking parts in the whole movie, but to like see him be silent and stoic like that really does make me like his character, and I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. Like his portrayal of this is like, yeah, I really buy that this dude could single-handedly defeat a predator in combat with his samurai sword. So, um, and then just to be cheeky, I think Derek Mears, who plays Jason Voorhees in the Friday the 13th reboot, and is like my favorite Jason Voorhees. He plays like the OG Predator who gets like his head cut off and was like imprisoned in the camp. I think he does a really good job as a Predator, because he just always does a really great job. How would I improve this movie? I think um, like I have the same complaints that everyone else does for the most part. Like I think that like you should just develop the characters more. Like even if you're gonna like only focus on like Adrien Brody and like Alice Braga, um, and I keep pronouncing her name both different ways because I want to cover my own ass because I don't know which way is right. But just like even if you're just gonna develop those two more, um, just do that. Like because I'm like, as much as I like Adrien Brody at the end, like I still don't know if I like him because I just don't know anything about him. Like the character we know the most about in this movie is literally Laurence Fishburne's character, and he's in the movie for like 10 minutes, and that should like not be the case. Like, and I think that also stems from how like thinly written the dialogue is and how like brief the dialogue is. Like it's all like kind of like dumb stuff coming out of Walton Goggins' mouth that doesn't read well or land and doesn't age well, or it's literally just like people assessing the situation. So like if you could just like I don't know, write some better dialogue, help flesh out these characters and their motivations and their backstories a little bit, I think that would make this a really like phenomenal movie. And I think they do that like a little bit with like Predator, and that's what like makes Predator almost like a perfect movie. Because like like Arnold and Carl Weathers have like a backstory, and Arnold has like these little cigars, and Bill Duke is like dry shaving the whole movie, and like Jesse Ventura is like I don't have time to bleed, and he's like spitting and stuff, and like Bill Duke and Jesse Ventura are like gay lovers, I think, almost in that movie, um, and like Billy from that movie, like the Native American guy, is like he's like really into tracking, and he's like fun, and he really has like a personality kind of, whereas all these people are just like I'm like yep, they're kind of grunts who kill people and shoot people. So like maybe just flesh that out a little bit, but other than that, no notes. Because like there's so much to like about this movie. As I get to the what's to like section, I mean like literally like the whole concept of like spinning it on its head, like oh the predators are kidnapping us, putting us on this planet, and hunting us like it's the most dangerous game meets Predator is like a really really neat concept. And when you have a good concept like that, that's a really strong start, I would say. I mean, and like the scenery too, like the forest is gorgeous. Like the stuff is like, I mean, like it's filmed in Hawaii and Texas, so it looks great. I really buy, especially with the like the lighting and stuff too. I really buy that this is like a dangerous environment and a foreign environment that these people are in. Like that's done really well. Like the explosion effects, like the minimal gore effects that are in this movie, like all the blood, and like the predator design is all really great. And like the fact that they like added like the mythos that like oh there's different factions of predator and different like variants of the species predator, and like they all have like their own like almost like quirks, like they have like tusks on their helmets, or like the berserker has like an alien jaw, like a xenomorph jawbone attached to his helmet. It's like just really cool. I mean the action sequences are just well done. Like the fighting and stuff is great. very compelling, and like the kills are pretty interesting. Like people are getting blown up. Walton Goggins gets his freaking spine ripped out. Mahershala Ali's like stabbed. Laurence Fishburne's blown up. Pretty good stuff. Yeah, I mean, like I said, like just some like final thoughts before we get to like trivia and stuff. Like this film really takes everything you know about Predator and everything you like about Predator to new heights and like to different like regions while still like resembling the first one enough to like make this a really worthy sequel. Like I think like there's a leading man, these are capable killers matched against capable killers, and it's like, it's just like more or less a straight up action movie. Um with like a sci-fi twist, and it's just like it really pays off in a big way, and I love it. So yeah, we'll get to some hot triv here. Some trivia courtesy of IMDb. IMDb. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of like definitely some funny, interesting stuff going on behind the scenes on this one. According to the director and Robert Rodriguez in a commentary, the script called for the character Cuchillo, which is like Spanish for knife, but it's like it literally called for a guy who looks like Danny Trejo. And when Danny Trejo heard about this, he called Robert Rodriguez and said, "Hey, I heard there's a guy in your script for Predators who looks just like Danny Trejo, and guess what? I look just like Danny Trejo, so cast me in this movie." So the fact that like Robert Rodriguez, having worked with Danny Trejo in the past, was literally going to be like, "Let's just get a Danny Trejo-esque dude. There's no way we're going to be able to get Trejo," and Trejo's like, "Put me in." It's just really funny. But yeah, like the alien creature that pursues Edwin through the jungle is a slightly modified version of the original abandoned Predator design from 1987. Um, the hunting dogs that were sicked on the characters are based on creature skulls seen in the trophy case on board the Predator ship in Predator 2. Like I said, the film's basic plot was conceived in 1994. And Robert Rodriguez presented this script to 20th Century Fox, but they turned it down because the budget required was too large. But then, like, here we are, like, here they were 15 years later, and they decided to, it was a good idea, and they went through with it. Um, Laurence Fishburne filmed for just 2 days, despite being one of the top billed people. Oh yeah, okay, so here we go. Nimrod and Tal specifically chose Adrien Brody for the main protagonist, and is quoted as saying, "Well, it was a challenge in finding a balance. When we cast Adrien, there were a lot of people going, what? Why would you do that? But at the same time, if we cast like Vin Diesel in that sort of role, or anyone who is Arnold-esque, we would have been attacked for doing that and just copying Predator. So we decided early on to go a different route, but it turned out fantastic." And he felt that like portraying soldiers as like wiry tough guys and not like burly men like Arnold was like more realistic, which I guess I can agree with. The original script contained cameo appearances by Dutch and Michael Harrigan, which is Arnold and Danny Glover's character from the first two movies, but their cameos were cut. The classic Predator from the original 1987 movie, like the original Predator design of the one that's like, you know, chained up and then released by Adrien Brody only to be killed. That design of Predator is different from the one in Predator 2 and AVP, so this is the first time we're seeing that one in over 20 years, which is cool. Oh, yeah, okay, so this is interesting. Um, when you go into the Predator camp, towards the beginning of the movie, you see a Neanderthal skull next to a human skull on the ground, like, where the trophies are. And the Neanderthal species, like the subspecies, became extinct 40,000 years ago. So obviously the predators have been at this a really long time. Um, when asked where he drew inspiration from how to make a Predator film, Rodriguez responded that he was inspired by Predator in terms of what to do, and in terms of what not to do, he was inspired by Predator 2, AVP, and AVP Requiem. So basically, he was just bird dogging and shit talking the other installments of this movie. Um, The Predator's title, while also being a double entendre for the human and alien predators in this movie, also is kind of an homage to Alien and its sequel, Aliens. So it's like Predator and Predators, Alien and Aliens. So that's neat. The song that plays over the credits is Little Richard's Long Tall Sally, which was what the original boys in Predator were listening to on the helicopter ride before they dropped into the jungle for their mission. The film was shot in 53 days, which is not necessarily a long shoot. Hanzo, which is the Yakuza guy, speaks only in one scene, has a total of 3 lines of dialogue, which is interesting. The average height of the actors who play the Predators in this film are 6 to 6'1", while the actors in the previous films were 7'1" and 7'1" tall. So shorter Predators in this one. Laurence Fishburne's character says he was an air cav, like air cavalry in the army, and he proceeds to hum Ride of the Valkyries, which is an homage to Laurence Fishburne being in Apocalypse Now, which prominently featured air cavalries and Ride of the Valkyries, which is pretty interesting. Milo Ventimiglia, Freddie Rodriguez, and Josh Brolin were all considered for the role of Royce, which I don't think Milo Ventimiglia had the clout necessarily to do that back then. And I think Josh Brolin would have been more of an Arnold-esque casting, so I think out of those 4, I think Adrien Brody was the right call. Neil Marshall, M.J. Bassett, Bill Duke, Marcus Nispel, an all-star on this podcast for directing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, Peter Berg and Darren Lynn Bousman were considered to direct the film. But in the end, Antal was hired because Robert Rodriguez enjoyed Antal's earlier films, Control and Vacancy. So another Vacancy fan. Jeff Fahey was initially considered for the role of Noland, like from Body Parts and Lost, and The Lawnmower Man. I would have loved that. That would have been awesome. But I think Laurence Fishburne, I guess, brings some star power. Alright, and finally, the last bit of trivia here that I found interesting, at least. Check out IMDb. They have, a million different, some of them the same, facts. Like, I'll literally read one, and then I'll read one below it. I'm like, oh, that's literally the same fact. But I just thought this was interesting, that never has any main key featured predator survived any film, like, in which they have appeared. Like, whether they're an ally or, like, the antagonist. Like in this movie, there was one that was an ally, and then in AVP, there's like an ally, but that guy dies. The ally in this one dies. All the Predator antagonists always get killed. So yeah, Predators just do be dying in these movies. Of course, the same can be said for the aliens, and most of the Alien movies die. But that's good because they're villains. Like, I guess you think oh man, the ones who try to help out also get killed. That's not great. But yeah, so just real quick, I like to do with these franchises, is I like to go through some of the some article. I like to find articles online that rank the movies, and just to give you an indication of the standing of these movies within people who are Predator experts or do research or are just huge Predator fans. So I found 6 articles about this, and I'll just go through them real quick before revealing my own. So in an article on IndieWire written by Allison Foreman, related to Eric Foreman, but yeah, so it ranks Predators actually as and actually reading these articles, Predators is ranked pretty high, and I don't know if that's just because most of the movies in this franchise are pretty ill-received and belayed. I'm just saying words. I don't know. Are pretty hated. People don't like them. And AVP and AVP Requiem are included in those polls and in these articles. But yeah, I mean in this IndieWire article, Predators actually comes in at number 3, right behind 2022's Prey and the original Predator, which seems like the trend for the most part is Predators, Prey, and the original Predator are the top, are like usually like the top 3 in just like different variations. Whereas AVP Requiem is the worst in every single one of these articles. And usually the Predator is like right after. So in this IndieWire article by Miss Foreman, AVP Requiem is 7. The Predator comes in at number 6, followed by Predator 2, AVP, Predator's Prey, and then Predator. But then if we go to slashfilm.com, and again, I'll put links to all of these in the show notes here, so you can take a look for yourself. But yeah, the slashfilm .com actually, this article written by somebody. Let me see who wrote the article. Written by Whitney Seibold, actually rates Predators as number 1. So it actually puts it above the original Predator and Predator 2, but this article does not have Prey. It starts with AVP Requiem being in last. And man, I'm looking at the picture of the Predalien, like the mixture of the alien and Predator from Requiem. This looks so goofy, so stupid. But yeah, so it goes. So yeah, with Prey coming out, that might change. But Slashfilm, for the time being, says Predators is the best movie in the franchise. But yeah, then Screen Rant. You go to Screen Rant, and Prey is the best, followed by Predator, and then Predators. With Predator 2 coming in after that. Vulture has Predator in the number 1 spot, followed by Prey, and then Predators. Collider.com has Prey coming in first, followed by Predator, and then Predators, basically the same thing with a little variation, followed by Predator 2, The Predator, AVP, and AVP Requiem. And then lastly, Den of Geek has Predator coming in at number 1, followed by followed by Predators, and then Prey is in number 3. So like I said, it seems as though Predator, Prey, and Predators kind of are interchangeable in the top 3. Sorry, loud truck going by. But yeah, with usually it's Predator, Prey, top 2, and then Predators, which we just covered, at number 3. So it's pretty within the Predator community, it's pretty well respected. But I think at large, it's like definitely flies under the radar big time. And with then the rest of the, I think Predator 2 is definitely usually the next one, either Predator 2 or Predator or Alien vs. Predator, with The Predator and AVP Requiem coming in last. But I want to say AVP Requiem, Predator 2, and 2018's The Predator, directed by Shane Black, are hated. People hate those movies. So like the ranking of those is pretty interchangeable because they're just not well liked at all whatsoever. But what are you gonna do? And by that being said, I can't stand AVP or AVP Requiem, but I love Predator 2, love The Predator. So ranking those movies is very difficult for me. And I haven't seen Prey, but I'll just give it a shot anyway. Ranking the 4 that I've seen. Well, I'll rank the 6 that I've seen. So AVP Requiem, of course, coming in dead last. That movie's terrible. AVP coming in right on its heels at number 5, because I can't stand that movie either, but I can stand it a little more. Again, I haven't seen Prey, not going to rank it. With then, with Predator 2 coming in, I think and that's like Predator 2, The Predator, that's like a toss-up, but I think in the current mood I'm in right now, I'm going to rank Predator 2 at number 4, with The Predator coming in at number 3, and then, our baby Predators coming in at number 2, with, of course, the original Predator being excellent, because like that movie's practically a masterpiece. It's a really excellent film. And this movie, as good as it is, doesn't really touch it. So yeah, there we have my rankings. And if I get around to watching Prey, which I would like to this week or next week, I'll let you know where it lands in my rankings, and I'll give you an updated version then. But in the meantime, that is all I have for today. Tune in next week for another episode. We're going to have 3 weeks, 3 new episodes each week, bang, 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 to conclude our sequel summer series, which right after that, you're going to have 3 episodes, bang, 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 right away, to kick off Halloween. And then, we'll take a little break between then and now, just so I can get the winter season outlined and set up. So, but tune in next. You're gonna have an episode a week for the next 6 weeks. So, I guess I will reveal next week's episode right now, just for fun, just so I don't leave you guys waiting in suspense. I don't know what I did with those lists that I had. Sorry, the lists are gone. They disappeared somehow. Okay, gotcha here. Okay, so next week I'm gonna do Alien Resurrection, just to stick with the franchise's theme, and because we did one Predator this week, I'll do an Alien next week. I'm gonna do Alien Resurrection. So Alien Resurrection coming at you roughly a week from now, maybe next weekend at some point. So just stay tuned for that. And again, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you tuning in. Again, if you want to check out any of those articles I mentioned about the rankings, it'll be in the show notes. And again, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you guys have a lovely evening or morning whenever you're listening to this. Anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Talk to you then. We're not talking. You're just listening to what I'm saying. Anyway, goodbye.